Hello, 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 hello. Hey, this is Warren Redlick. Hello, hello, hello. Thank you so much for watching. Welcome to Sunday Live with Warren Redlick, talking about Tesla, talking about SpaceX. We'll talk about some other topics. I'm going to start off by talking about Project Highland, but before I get into it, just really quick, I'm wearing the Baglino Fan Club t-shirt. Drew Baglino is arguably the number 2 guy at Tesla. He's the one who was with Elon on stage at Battery Day. He participates in every call, in every investor call. You hear his voice. Check out the Baglino Fan Club t-shirt. I also have my Tesla stainless steel water bottle. All these are at elonbits.com. And I'll be doing a second live stream today on the Daily Lie, talking about headlines, talking about what we're being lied to about. There's a particularly big news story today that I think is really important, that shows how we've been lied to and how things are changing, but we're still being lied to in so many different ways. So I want to start off by talking about Project Highland. There's been a bunch of videos on YouTube. There's a bunch of people on Twitter talking. Connecting the dots is here. Connecting the dots. Best in Tesla. I think that's Lars Cleaner. All these people talking about Project Highland as if Project Highland is real. There's no evidence that there's a Project Highland. As far as I know, there's no credible evidence there is a Project Highland. The idea, and there's one more. Sorry, there's more. There's all these videos. There's connecting the dots again. There's this idea that here's Electric Viking, new Tesla Model 3 Project Highland coming. Everybody talking about what basically sounds like a refresh of Model 3. And I'm just going to say, I think this is all incorrect. There is no Project Highland. It may be that there's something called Highland inside Tesla, but the concept is that Model 3 is somehow out of date and needs a massive refresh. And what did I see? Somebody today saying, or maybe it was today or yesterday, saying Project Highland is front and rear castings and 4680 structural pack for Model 3. So let's be clear. Model 3 has been continuously updated with probably like 10 changes a week for the last 5 years. Model 3 came out in 2018, I think. Maybe it was 2017. They're constantly updating Model 3. There's constant changes, and there's been substantial changes over the last 5 years. The idea that there's some radical new change coming, like, will they eventually shift to front and rear castings? Yeah, probably. I mean, it's basically the same as the Model Y platform, slightly smaller vehicle. Model Y was based on Model 3. So it's reasonable to expect that they will shift to a rear casting, let's say, which all Model Ys today, I believe, have rear casting. And then eventually, will they shift to front casting? Sure. If that's a better way to manufacture the car, they will gradually transition to manufacturing the car that way, as long as it makes sense to invest the capital to get there, which I'm not convinced it does, and I'll get into that. So when you look at that and you say, okay, so what's the change gonna be? Well, that they'll go to front and rear castings doesn't need a Project Highland. There was no special project name for when Model Y went to rear castings and then front and rear castings and structural pack. But this idea that they're going to go to 4680 on all Model 3s, this misunderstands a problem in the short to medium term, is that there aren't enough 4680 cells to go around. And Cybertruck is going to need a lot of 4680s, and the Model Ys that are using 4680 are going to need a lot of 4680s, and Tesla Semi is eventually going to be 4680. And we're talking, by the way, about nickel-based 4680s. Will there be some lithium iron phosphate-based 4680 cell coming in the future? That's certainly possible. I think it might even be likely. But that's not coming soon. There's no factory set up to build them yet. Once they announce we're building a factory to build 4680 and lithium iron phosphate, it's going to be at least a year before the factory even starts, and then it's another year to ramp, or 2 years to ramp. So the volume of 4680s that are needed to sustain everything is challenging. And Tesla already has access to 2170 cells and 1865 cells from Panasonic, from LG Chem, and probably other suppliers. Those batteries are still good. Cars made with those batteries are still good. So we getting talking about my shirt now? Baglino Fan Club, elonbits.com. So though, sorry. Sorry, I'm having fun with the real estate world. You actually have a conversation with somebody, and an hour later, they're like, well, wait a minute. No, I told you. I'm sorry, the world is crazy. So, and by the way, I'm having a great week. It wasn't an even better week until this morning, but anyways, I'm having a great week. So, what's happening with Model 3? Are they going to upgrade Model 3 with front and rear castings? Yeah, that seems like something they might do. I think they might not go as far as you might think. There's a long-term issue with Model 3. So Model Y costs currently less to build than Model 3. So most buyers, when given a choice, at least in the United States, and it appears around the world, are going to choose the Model Y over the Model 3 because the Model Y is more practical. Now, I believe that they can improve manufacturing of Model 3 and make it cost competitive with Model Y, but it's not really going to save you that much money to make a Model 3 and to invest a lot in the platform. They're continuing to innovate. Tesla always innovates on everything that they do. But if you have a choice of building a gigapress to improve Model 3 manufacturing or building a gigapress to improve Cybertruck manufacturing, it probably makes sense to invest in Cybertruck. You have the Generation 3 platform vehicle coming. Where are Tesla's engineers? Where do you want Tesla to devote their engineering resources? They don't have unlimited engineers. So, and thank you, Mark. When Tesla decides we're going to put engineering resources into something, this is why we don't have Roadster yet, right? Because Roadster is not really that important for the long-term future of Tesla. This is why we're not getting a Plaid Plus Model S, because that's not important for the long-term future of Tesla. Model Y right now is the vehicle for Tesla's long-term future. Cybertruck is coming. That will be significant. I'm not sure it'll ever be the same volume as Model Y, but it's important. The Generation 3 platform vehicle is really where it's at in terms of the future of Tesla. It's going to be a much higher volume vehicle than any other vehicle in Tesla's fleet. So would you rather Tesla devote engineering resources to Moon asks, what is Platform 3 then, which will be announced? Generation 3 platform vehicle. The Generation 3 platform will be described in some depth at Investor Day. We don't know the details. I have my own speculation about it. That number one, it will be roughly the size of a Toyota Corolla, so significantly smaller than a Model 3 or Model Y. They told us that. It's going to be half the cost, half the footprint. The factory, it's a half about the vehicle and half about the factory. If you can make the factory for less, you can build the factory in a smaller space, you can increase the output of a smaller footprint factory, then you get more out of it. So I think that what we're going to see is a Corolla-like vehicle that will probably be significantly more efficient in terms of miles per kilowatt hour. So a Model 3 right now does about 4 to 4.5 miles a kilowatt hour. If you go to the next generation platform, maybe you can push that to 6 miles a kilowatt hour. And that means with, let's say, a 50 kilowatt hour pack, you've got 300 miles of range, or with a 40 kilowatt hour pack, you've got 240 miles of range. And I could see like a base model Gen 3 platform vehicle with 40 kilowatt hour pack and 240 miles of range. 240 miles of range is not enough for most Americans, but it might be appropriate in Europe or in China or other markets where people don't drive as far and they drive at lower speeds so that you actually get closer to the real range of the vehicle. Japan, maybe. I don't think that people, and here in America, I frequently go on multi-100-mile drives. I go to Melbourne for happy hour, and it's like 45 minutes each way. I just on routine driving. So I went to Vero Beach and came back yesterday for a blues festival, and I probably did, way over 100 miles, probably close to 200 miles. So here's the thing that really, why I think the long-term future of Model 3 is going to shrink. And just to be clear, I don't think they're giving up on Model 3. Drew Beglino specifically said they think they can get another $2,500 to $300,000, another $2,500 to $3,000 reduction in the cost of producing Model 3 and Model Y. When he said it, he talked about Model 3 as well. So they're not giving up on Model 3. But this new Generation 3 vehicle is going to eat into sales of Model 3 a little bit. If you go to the low end of Model 3, that's a vehicle people wanted to buy a Tesla. They bought the least expensive one they could find. That was the Model 3. Now somebody comes along and says, I want a Tesla, but I don't want to spend, maybe they're going to see the opportunity to pick up a Generation 3 vehicle and say, I'll save 5 or 10 grand on this nicely loaded Generation 3 platform vehicle versus buying a base Model 3. I think that might make sense. Too Many Phils asked, am I doing a new Lucid video? My plan is I want to do a video comparing Lucid and Rivian. Lucid and Rivian have roughly the same market cap. I think Rivian is very clearly a better bet. They're both in trouble in some ways, but I think Rivian is very clearly a better investment and a more likely to succeed company. So I'm planning that Rivian is announcing their earnings on Wednesday, I think February 28th. Or 29th this year? I don't know. Maybe it's March 1st. Whenever Rivian announces their earnings, I'm planning on putting together a video looking at the latest earnings from Rivian, the latest, financials from Rivian, the latest financials from Lucid, and comparing the two companies and showing how odd it is that they have this remarkably different. Mark Plot says Tesla rear-wheel drive already most efficient vehicle, 132 miles per gallon. Right. Well, it's electric miles per gallon. What is its actual range? There's all kinds of things there. All right, so Model 3, I think they're producing about 500,000 of them a year. And I don't think that's going to grow dramatically. Now, here's the thing. If they do go to front and rear castings of Model 3, and that reduces the factory footprint by 30%, then, or maybe more than that, that opens up space. What do they do with the extra space? Do they build another Model 3 line? I don't think so. I don't think they're trying to expand Model 3. I'm sorry, I was trying to make a point here, because you got 2170 cells from Panasonic and LG Chem. You got 1865 cells from Panasonic coming out of Nevada. Tesla they're still valuable. Making vehicles with those cells is still profitable. So it doesn't make sense to stop using cells you have access to and stop producing vehicles you're making profit. You just add more vehicles that you're making with the new cells. You don't want to trade off the 4680s that were going to go into a Cybertruck and put them in a Model 3. So they're going to continue making 2170 Model Ys and 1865 Model S's and X's, and they're going to continue making 2170 Model 3s. And will they shift and make a 4680 version of some of these vehicles? They're already making a 4680 version of Model Y, so it's not crazy, but you have to reach a certain level of scale to make it worth doing that. And I don't think the market is there for a 4680 Model 3, at least not in the near term. So the idea that this is happening right away, and Admiral Medjay says, what about the compact? The Generation 3 vehicle is the compact. I don't know why people think that people have this idea that they're just going to chop off the trunk of a Model 3 and make a car. It's not Tesla's way. Tesla re-engineers cars from the ground up. Model Y was basically an evolution of Model 3, and Model X was basically an evolution of Model S. They were built on the same rough platforms, but they've got a new platform coming. They're not just going to take Model 3 and make some shitty little car out of it. My opinion. Cybertrucker 420 says price prediction for dual motor Cybertruck for someone at about 1 millionth on the reservation list. I would assume that Tesla's going to try to get model Cybertrucks under $80,000. My gut says that the quad motor Cybertruck is going to be so amazing they're going to charge more for it. Like, who's going to buy a Model X if the Cybertruck is that good for under $80,000? I don't know. If it's going to have more range than a Model X and it's going to have cool features, I don't know. Mark Plot says the 4680 is not currently better than 2170. Later 4680 will be better. I think they're roughly comparable. The energy density of the 4680s at the cell level is not better than 2170. I suspect that at the pack level, it's close because you got a structural pack. And yeah, they're going to be engineering. They're working on improving 4680, and there'll be a next generation 4680 that'll be higher energy density, and that's when things will take off. But regardless, as long as the 2170 is a cell that they can make a profit selling vehicles on, why would they stop using it? John Bay says, did I miss the announcement that Tesla was fixated on a particular battery size, chemistry, other factors? No, I mean, I think that going forward, I think Tesla is going to expand based on the 4680 cell. I don't think they're going to expand production of 2170s and 1865s. They're going to grow production of the 4680s, and future vehicles will be based on the 4680. My gut hunch is that the Generation 3 platform vehicle will be based on 4680s. But ElonBits.com for the stainless steel water bottle. and the Baglino Fan Club t-shirt. I think that we're going to see 4680s in lithium iron phosphate. And the Generation 3 platform vehicle will have lithium iron phosphate versions, and maybe it'll have nickel-based versions as well. When they did their battery day presentation, it sounded like the Generation 3 platform vehicle was going to be lithium iron phosphate only. It would make sense if they built it with a structural pack and lithium iron phosphate 4680s. That's my gut. I think that's where we're heading. So I wanted to talk about one. Sorry, I think I covered all that. I wanted to just talk really quick about SpaceX. SpaceX just announced, like just minutes before I went live, that the V2 mini Starlinks are equipped with new argon Hall thrusters for on-orbit maneuvering. Developed by SpaceX engineers, they have 2.4 times the thrust and 1.5 times the specific impulse of our first-generation thrusters. Also, the first time ever that argon Hall thrusters are operated in space. So, SpaceX constantly innovates, and they've got a new thruster. This is what Starlink satellites use to maintain their orbits, because orbits gradually decay and eventually the satellites fall back into the Earth's atmosphere and burn up. If you can use better thrusters, you can keep an orbit longer. You can keep more mass in orbit longer. And so more thrust and more specific impulse helps. I believe that they're using solar power, because these are argon Hall thrusters use electricity. I think they're using solar panels on the Starlinks to power the thrusters. I'm guessing that's the idea. And they make a reference to, we call them V2 Mini. They represent a step forward in Starlink capability. V2 Minis include key technologies such as more powerful phased array antennas and the use of E-band for backhaul. Backhaul meaning, I believe, communicating with each other, which will allow Starlink to provide 4x more capacity per satellite than earlier iterations. So this is V2 Minis. These are the version 2 Starlink satellites that will launch on Falcon 9 and possibly Falcon Heavy. There's another V2 coming that will launch on Starship that will be significantly larger and thus have even more capacity and more ability to serve customers. And that will enable Starlink to become a bigger network, and that's exciting. Jim Whitehead says, Ellie in Space just posted a video asking if Elon will have to build housing boxable for his workers. I don't think that, I haven't seen any sign of Tesla building housing for their workers. There is some sort of project going up in Texas. Can't think of the name of the town. I keep forgetting the name of the town. Where the Boring Company and SpaceX have their facilities. Just not coming to me. Bastrop, Texas. There's like 100, but it's 110 homes. And I don't think that's intended for regular workers. So I do think there's a value. I mean, I actually have a startup where I want to build homes that would be appropriate for, workers who don't make a lot of money. I do want to make that happen. So just got a package delivery. I wonder what I got. I think those are my new jeans. So I think that we're going to see. I haven't seen any hint. I mean, Tesla and SpaceX have been growing like gangbusters, and they haven't built housing for their workers yet. And I just want to mention really quick, I did a video with Galliano Terramani from Boxable. I still am unconvinced that Boxable is going to make any progress. I'm not convinced that Boxable is really a viable company. I think they got a lot of good PR. Elon gave them good PR. SpaceX gave them good PR by taking a prototype and keeping it in Boca Chica Village down by Starbase. But I just don't see that scaling to a large market. I'm not convinced that the company will be able to scale to sufficient volume to justify all the investment. I think that's challenging. Oh, Sue McLean's in the house. Sue McLean, a resident of Bastrop, familiar with Project Amazing, as it's called. We'll see. I just don't. I'm not convinced. Thank you, Sue. So let me address, there was a question here. When do I believe that the first delivery of Cybertrucks will take place? I think Q3. I think we might see initial delivery of a small number of Cybertrucks towards the end of Q3. That's a guess. If they're sandbagging, it could be Q2, but like we're in February now and they haven't started manufacturing yet. I don't think the Gigapress is assembled yet. So Q2 ends in June. I don't think there's any significant chance that we'll see any manufactured Cybertrucks going out on the road by the end of June. So Q3 would be the end of September. Still think it's a little bit of a stretch to make it to the end of September, but I think there's a chance we'll get some delivery of some Cybertrucks by the end of September by, Q3. More likely we see significant volumes starting, like significant like hundreds or low thousands in Q4, and then real volume hits in Q1 of next year. Mal says Tesla are rumored to be making the motors lighter. Maybe good to move to lighter, more powerful carbon wound rotors that would give greater range. One of my theories is that the Generation 3 platform vehicle will use a new version of the Plaid powertrain designed for efficiency rather than power output. I think that would make some sense. I'm not convinced. It seems like they're able to manufacture the Plaid powertrain at reasonable cost. So if you can make a smaller version of the Plaid powertrain, that might be radically more efficient. Maybe there's a way of doing that. I don't really know the answer to that question. Mark Potashnik mentions that there is a SpaceX Crew launch. Let me take this off the screen. There's a SpaceX Crew 6 launch. It's about 12 hours from now. I'm not sure I'm going to stay up for that. I think it's like 1:47 a.m. I think I may go to sleep. I'll probably be awakened by it because I can hear those launches in my bedroom at night. My bedroom window faces the launches, but I can't see them because there's a tree in the way. And there's also a Falcon 9 launch, a Starlink launch the next day. Today is Sunday. It's 1:23 p.m. So just after midnight tonight is the Crew launch, a couple hours after midnight. And then about 12 hours after that, there's a Falcon 9 launch for Starlink. So I don't think they're using silicon in the 4680 anode yet. I think there's a cathode. They're working on cathode first. Yeah, I don't think there's any proof that they're going full on 4680 with everything. I just think it makes sense that that's what they're going to do with different chemistries. And Jim Whitehead says, talking about Boxable, Jim Whitehead says, Boxable seems too expensive for the square footage to me. It works ridiculously high-priced California. Yeah, if you're putting Boxables in the backyard and you end up charging $400 a square foot when you add everything together, sure. And Calvin mentions the rub with housing is the land planning and utilities infrastructure. So I have an idea for a housing startup, and I've been looking for land. And Sue, since you're watching, I was looking around Bastrop today, and there's some neighborhood called Tahitian Village that looks like it's not appropriate because I don't think they'll allow the type of housing I want to build in Tahitian Village. Because I want to build steel structures. Maybe I can work around their rules. But land is expensive. Like if you want to buy land, it's really, really expensive, and I don't love that. Okay, Mike Stokes says this. I'm hoping to put my Model Y into robotaxi use when I upgrade to a new Tesla. I'm concerned with rumors. Okay, there's your first problem. They're rumors. Nope, nobody knows the answer to this question. I'm concerned with rumors that only Hardware 4 will be capable of autonomous driving, and Hardware 3 will just be a great driver assist FSD. I don't know why people think this. I mean, Elon has been very consistent. The autopilot team has been very consistent. Karpathy's been very consistent. If the people who run Tesla thought that Hardware 3 was inadequate for full self-driving, for autonomy, then they would have changed to Hardware 4 sooner, because they're making vehicles that they've said they will not be able to retrofit with Hardware 4. And they want as many robotaxi capable vehicles as possible on the road. So why would you make an extra million vehicles? They had Hardware 4. Hardware 4 could have been ready in 2021. Right? So they made, 2 million vehicles with Hardware 3 when they could have made them with Hardware 4. Why would they do that? In 2019, they said that Hardware 4 was a 4-year cycle and was started 2 years earlier. So Hardware 4 was roughly ready in 2021. If this was a huge concern, you just have to look at what has Tesla done. Tesla did not change their hardware layout for like 2 years after everybody said you got to change the hardware layout. While we're watching, please like this video, share, and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Um, and a reminder at the top of the chat and in a link in the description below, I will be doing another live stream starting about a half hour from now, talking about new media, mainstream media, news, trending topics on Twitter. I try to avoid talking about politics here on YouTube, so I shift the politics over there. Um, did I see Sandy's video about hardware 4 versus hardware 3? Yes, let's talk about that. So Green the Only, a Twitter account, Green the Only, also known as Green, did a tweet thread showing what he claimed was hardware 4. And I think he genuinely believes it's hardware 4, which is, for those who aren't familiar, today's Teslas, my Model 3 and my Model X both have hardware 3 in them. This is the hardware that enables full self-driving. If you go, I think the version 2.5 FSD is not capable and can be upgraded to hardware 3, and everything before hardware 2.5 is not really capable of full self-driving. So there's been talk. Elon mentioned in 2019 that there would be a hardware 4. He recently mentioned not only is hardware 4 coming, but hardware 5 is coming. He has said that hardware 4 will start with Cybertruck. One of Green's rumors is that they're already building hardware 4 into Model X and S, and they will soon be building it in apparently to Model 3 and Model Y. I don't know whether I believe these rumors. What I've seen, I'm not convinced that the hardware that was shown rises to the level that Elon forecasted when he talked about hardware 4 in the past. It should be a lot more capable. You can't really tell from the outside, and if it's 7 nanometer instead of 14 nanometer, that increased density on the chips maybe makes the difference, and it doesn't look like it's using less power, and I think they want it to use less power. So I'm just not convinced, and I think people, we have this tendency in the Tesla community to fall for these rumors. When there's a rumor out there that there's something like Project Highland, we're like desperate for news. Like we want Tesla to tell us more. We want to know more about what's going on. We want something to talk about. So we're looking for something to get us excited. And Project Highland, I just don't think is real at all. Will they update the Model 3? Of course, but does it need a project name? No. Hardware 4. So my gut hunch is that hardware 4 will ship with Cybertruck and not before. That's my gut hunch. Are they putting I think it's tricky because if they put hardware 4 in existing vehicles and they haven't trained it yet, I don't know that it can just adopt the training that the hardware 3 cars have. So will FSD work as well on a hardware 4 vehicle? I'm not convinced of that. No, Highland isn't hardware 4. So then Elon mentioned hardware 5. So my gut hunch is that Cybertruck will ship with hardware 4 in the fall of this year. And once Cybertruck ships with hardware 4, then other vehicles will probably adopt hardware 4. Could they adopt hardware 4 before? I suppose so. I don't see any reason not to. But there's a hardware 5 coming. And hardware 5 is probably going to be on the next generation, the Generation 3 platform, the robotaxi vehicle that will start manufacturing in 2024 and go live in 2025. Investor Day prediction. I have a video talking about Investor Day. My main prediction about Investor Day, thank you, Admiral Medjay. My main prediction about Investor Day is that the focus will be on scaling battery material supply and the supply chain for the incredible volume of batteries that the world, not just Tesla, but the world needs for our robotaxi, for the future, for accelerating the transition to sustainable energy. That just on the Tesla side of it, in 2022, Tesla used 100 gigawatt hours of batteries. In 2030, Tesla is planning to use 3 terawatt hours or 3,000 gigawatt hours of batteries. That's a 30x increase in Tesla's demand for batteries in 8 years. The supply chain isn't adequate for that. There needs to be change to the supply chain. The world as a whole used 700 gigawatt hours of batteries in 2022 and needs to go to 10 terawatt hours in 2030, or roughly a 15x. For global consumption of batteries, global use of batteries in vehicles and energy storage and so on. So to get there, the supply chain has to completely change. Not just lithium, not just nickel, but even graphite, everything, copper, everything that's going into these batteries We need a lot more mining. We need a lot more refining. We need a lot more a lot more effort to get the materials out of the ground and in a form that's usable for batteries. And we're just not there yet. So my expectation is the big thing is a plan is Elon's plan, Tesla's plan, the master plan to massively increase the scale of battery materials. Battery materials in the supply chain for them. You're not, Tesla has plans to produce maybe 500 gigawatt hours of cells in Giga Texas and 500 gigawatt hours of cells in Giga Nevada, and those two alone would be more than global production of batteries in 2022. And they're probably going to build more. They've got Berlin they're going to build batteries in. They're probably going to build batteries in China or Japan or something like that. So where is all the lithium coming from? Where's all the nickel coming from? Where's all the graphite coming from? These are challenges. Jim Whitehead says, in Ellie's video about Austin traffic, they said a big problem for boring to make tunnels in Austin is that federal land has old rules that won't work with boring methods. I have a feeling that Elon and the team can work around whatever kind of rules there are like that. I'm not sure. I don't recall seeing a lot of federal land between. I don't know that there's a lot of federal land under Austin. I mean, I'm not sure where the federal land is and why that's a problem. If Cybertruck costs less than Model Y, I will seriously consider Cybertruck. If I said cost less than Model Y, that's not what I meant. I'm expecting Cybertruck to cost less than Model X potentially. If it does cost less than Model X, I think that's a problem for Model X sales. And Mark Plott says Tesla has another new graphite deal. Yeah, you have these like patchwork of making deals with companies to get like a certain amount of lithium or a certain amount of graphite. But we need a massive change in how we do all this. Ken one says, how does Elon know everything? Well, obviously Elon is the player character in our simulation, or he's an alien's special circumstances agent from the Culture. If you haven't read Ian Banks' The Culture science fiction series, I recommend it. Elon recommends it. James Tomsko asks, any chance we get a new Lucid video? There will be a new Lucid video this week after Rivian reports their earnings. It might be next week because Investor Day is coming, and I want to do the Lucid video I want to do a Lucid and Rivian video together. And I suppose there's a lot of videos I want to make, just to be clear. So there's this video that's going around about how Tesla screwed up, how Tesla lost its lead or some nonsense like that, which is total. Tesla doesn't have the lead. Toyota and Volkswagen have the lead. They are the largest car makers in the world. Tesla is still a relatively small car maker. They have the lead in technology. They don't have the lead in terms of number of vehicles sold. So the idea that Tesla lost the lead they didn't have is silly. And the idea that Tesla's lost its technological lead is completely ridiculous. Tesla's technological lead is growing, not shrinking. Melody asks, any news of the Fort Lauderdale boring tunnel? Is it dead? I don't think it's dead, but I don't know what's slowing it down. I think Boring Company is working on their new machines, their new tunnel boring machines. Elon needs to get with Walter Block and take on Ad Coelum property rights. Okay, that's too esoteric for me, Thaddeus. I would use FSD for unattended personal trips and not put my car for rent. I don't see the respect from folks using others' vehicle. Look at Uber and car rentals. So I think there's a difference between letting someone else drive your car and letting someone else ride in your car. If someone else is riding in the back seat of your car, they're not going to be able to wreck it. They're not going to drive it over potholes. They're not going to drive outrageous speeds. And you have an interior camera. And then my suggestion would be if you're riding in a robo-taxi, you take a picture, a short video of the car as you get in, and you pick a picture and short video of the car as you get out. And I would actually build that into the robo-taxi app. You know, that you take a picture as you get in, you take a picture as you get out. And then when somebody gets to the car and they open the door and they see vomit in the car, we know it was the previous rider who's responsible. So I think that kind of system would discourage people from mistreating the cars. Tesla does lead in electric vehicles sold, although there's people arguing that BYD has the lead. But anyway, so I have videos I want to make. Several people have asked me to make a video about this video criticizing Tesla. So I'm Wendover Productions, yeah. Oh, Stephen Mark Ryan already did it? All right, if Stephen Mark Ryan already did it, I don't think there's any point in me doing it. I'm sure Steven did it better than I did, and Tom Nash already did it, so they've already covered it. Boring Company. So I might make a video about Lucid and then make a video comparing Lucid and Rivian. I just honestly, like when I make videos about Lucid now, people don't watch them. Johnny Olison says, any comments on the Wendover Productions How Tesla Fumbled video? So I looked at it. I didn't watch the whole thing. It was painful to watch. It was reminded me of the F9, Ryan from F9's video about Tesla Autopilot. Very slow pace of the video. A lot of B-roll, meaning like video of stuff that's loosely related to what the speaker's talking about. Not really getting to the point, not delivering on what, it says how Tesla fumbled. Why does the video take so long? What did they actually fumble? I never got through the video. I just thought it was painful. Johnny Football says there's a great video out about how SpaceX and Starlink will help Tesla out. I've heard people saying that there's going to be a Starlink antenna designed specifically for Tesla cars. I think this is silly. I don't think that the cars need it. The Starlink network is limited bandwidth, in particular limited in the number of users it can handle at one time. So putting Starlink satellite antennas on 10 million Tesla cars is not going to be beneficial to the Starlink network. That's my I mean, maybe I'm wrong about this, but that's my take on it. So how bullish am I on Tesla Bot? I'm crazy bullish on Tesla Bot. I actually, there's some hint that Tesla's going to make like the biggest announcement in Tesla history. Like, what does that mean? I mean, I really think that it has to be about increasing the volume of battery materials. But, are they going to open source FSD, for example? And, we're going to license FSD for free to anyone who wants it. That would be crazy. I would not like that. But that would be crazy. I mean, maybe there's a reason why that would make sense. If they're going to license it and Tesla's going to get a share of the robotaxi revenue from every vehicle using it, that actually may be good from a shareholder perspective. I'd have to do the math on that. I was trying to figure out what's the big deal. Even Mark Ryan videos are filled with constant annoying ads. Yeah, when we create videos, YouTube offers us the an editing thing to adjust the number of ads in our videos, and I purposely reduce the number of ads. It's a default that it pumps a bunch of ads in the videos, and it's probably not worth Steven's time to reduce the number of ads. I don't know. You combine BYD BEVs and hybrid electric vehicles, then yes, they sold more than Tesla. Yeah, I'm just saying it doesn't matter whether Tesla's in the lead. There's this video about whether Tesla fumbled their lead. If Tesla has a lead in like self-driving, and they haven't fumbled that. They still have the lead in self-driving. Tesla has the lead in manufacturing cars efficiently and making high margin on your cars. They have the lead in that. They haven't fumbled that. They still have that lead. It's not clear what they fumbled. And I don't know who watched that video through. A ton of I think it was 300,000 people watched that video, and I'm looking at the video like I honestly I don't think I have the patience to watch the video and make a video about it. So maybe I'll make a video about Lucid, and then I'll make a video about Lucid and Rivian. Thinking about that. How do I feel about Tesla opening up the supercharging network? Great question. I think way too many people are way too worried about Tesla opening up the supercharger network. I'm in Florida. I almost never wait for a charger. Usually when I pull up to a charger, there's multiple chargers empty. So the volume of electric vehicles, of the non-Tesla electric vehicles that are out there is small. How much space are they going to take up? Now, my gut would be that the smart thing for Tesla would be to give those vehicles access to the slower chargers in the Tesla supercharger network, and the 150 kilowatt, 120 kilowatt superchargers, 72 kilowatt. Some of other companies' EVs are not capable of handling 250 kilowatts, so you wouldn't want them to plug into a 250 kilowatt and slow it down. But with that said, I don't know what Tesla's plan is. Cyber Trucker 420 says, Warren, when are you getting on the Athletic Greens AG1 train? I don't even know what that is. Will Generation 2 Starship be wider? I think, I don't know that there's going to be a next generation Starship. When Elon talked about it in the past, it was going to be twice the diameter, but I think he may have changed his mind on that. Ice Wendigo says we will need to mine most of the lithium on the planet. No, that's not the issue. If you watch my video and you watch Jeff Don talking about it, it's the volume. There's ridiculous amounts of lithium on Earth. We're not going to get to all of it. We're not going to like mine lithium from the ocean floor, right? But we will mine lithium in a lot of places and we'll get a lot of lithium. It's the amount of dirt you have to move in order to get to the lithium, the amount of the tons of stuff you have to move out of the way. John Bay says, do not watch the videos, clickbait, get plenty of info about it with others that have seen most of it. Yeah. Tesla will allocate 25% stalls at location to start, so one stall to 4-stall location. I don't know that that's true. I don't know what the plan is. I don't think they've announced the plan. But there's lots of empty superchargers in Florida, and I think there's lots of empty. I think California is the one place where they really get jammed up because land is expensive and it's hard to deploy superchargers. But they have been deploying large supercharger, almost like supercharger farms in parts of California. All right. ElonBits.com. Let's talk about Lucid just really quick. People have been asking me about Lucid, so I'll just address it. I'll go in more depth in a video, but Lucid has a massive undelivered car problem. I think they sold 4,000 cars in 2022, and they have 3,200 cars that they didn't deliver. And this is they have cars that they produced in. I think they have cars they produced in Q2 that they still haven't sold by the end of the year. I'm not sure of that. My gut hunch when I read it is like, wow, they have extra cars and they're supposedly giving $7,500 off a car. That's not enough. They can't move the cars. I mean, I don't see a future for that company, but we'll see. Are all Elon's kids geniuses? Wouldn't it be funny if they weren't? Would it be funny if they weren't? I think genius is overrated. I think what stands out about look, Elon's smart. We can all agree that Elon is smart. What stands out about Elon is his persistence. He has a lot of different skill sets that come together. Being able to build good teams. Having a vision for the future. Yeah, but the persistence, the commitment to continue working, to continue building, to continue. He could have a long time ago just stepped off the treadmill and got a yacht and blown his money on hookers and blow, and it would have lasted him, 1,000 years. And he decided to keep building and doing stuff, and making the world a better place for it. And the fact that all these other entrepreneurs walk away is kind of frustrating. Anthony Daxis, wonder how Piedmont Lithium will use overall in Tesla's supply chain. Man, one of the things I think is possible is that Tesla will announce that they're buying a mining company, right? Lee Milroy says Ford has a massive dealership lot inventory problem. I haven't seen anything about Ford's inventory. I don't know what's going on there. What will Tesla need to accomplish in order to reach a 10 trillion market cap by 2030? Why would it only be 10 trillion? Look, it really boils down to, can they produce the batteries in the volume that they need, that they've said they're going to do? If they do 3 terawatt hours of batteries by 2030, that's a 30x. That's pretty much a $10 trillion company right there. If they deliver robotaxi and they have a 10 million robotaxi fleet, of Tesla-owned robotaxi fleet, that's way more than a $10 trillion market cap. If they get bot going and they sell 20 million bots in 2030, that's a 10. I mean, there's 3 different $10 trillion companies I just gave you right there, and more. I think when I worked all the numbers out, I ended up with like an $88 trillion company in 2030 if everything goes right. Now, some of that was overly optimistic. Cybertrucker says that I called it with Lucid. Rollins and CBC interview NBC around February 2020, and right after the merger was super shady. Yeah, I mean, I called it in September of 2020. Anthony Daxis is one of Lucid's problems is that their designs look like a boat and give slightly less driver visibility, aside from the fact they haven't taken production seriously. Well, that's 3 problems, I think. I don't think the look is that much of a problem. I think it's that they went for the luxury sedan market, which was shrinking, instead of going for the pickup truck market and SUV market like Rivian did, which is growing. Mark Potocnik, I don't know how to answer your question. He says he put in a sell order for, was this for Tesla? For 1 share at 1,008, when will it sell? I don't make short-term stock price predictions. I think Tesla stock's already worth more than that, so. Einstein was called a genius, so was Wile E. Coyote. Oops, not good with words, so I'm no smarter than a rock. Elon said a startup is like chewing glass, painful, and looking into the abyss, bankruptcy. I heard a great analogy for startups, which is like, you've decided to build a plane, so you take all the parts and you jump off a cliff, and then you build the plane on the way down. And hopefully you finish building the plane before you hit the ground below. Is there any update on Arcimoto? Arcimoto started production again. I believe they got financing to continue production. Are they going to get where they need to go? I don't know. What's Tesla worth now in your view? Oh, good question. Well, if you look at Tesla in the future, and let's say we say in 2030, Tesla is going to have a share price of $5,000 a share. I think that's a reasonably, an optimistic and at the same time conservative case, because if you go out and you look at like the 10 million robotaxi fleet and 20 million bots sold, then all of a sudden I can turn it into $15,000 a share. But let's say it's $5,000 a share, and you say, okay, let's back that out and let's discount. And let's say it's worth, what would you pay today for an asset that's going to be worth $5,000 in 8 years? And I think you'd probably pay half. So that'd be a $2,500 share price right now. Call it $2,000. Have I spotted it? And by the way, listen, I own a lot of Tesla stock. I've never sold a share. When it hit $400, I didn't sell. Right? I believe in it. I believe it's gonna be worth a lot more. I don't play timing games. Could Investor Day invitation represent castings for central section of vehicle? No, I don't think that's it at all. Have I spotted any Hummer EVs in Florida yet? I think I saw one once, but I'm not sure. I don't remember. It's not, whatever it was, I probably didn't see one because I think I would remember that. What if GM did not crush their EV1? Would there be a Tesla today? Probably. All right. Trying to think if there's anything else. I know there's been a little bit of boring company news. There hasn't really been a lot of Neuralink news. Have you thought that Investor Day may be a major announcement for bot? There's been almost no news about it for months. No, I don't think it's about bot. I don't think it's about FSD. I don't think it's about Project Highland. I think there's two things that it's about mainly. It's about scaling battery materials for 2030, because the world needs to 15x the battery, not just for Tesla, but for the world. The world needs to 15x the battery supply chain for 2030, and Tesla needs to 30x their own supply chain for 2030. So that's a huge challenge. And then the Generation 3 platform vehicle and the factory that makes the Generation 3 platform vehicle, there's a duality there that you've got to make the best vehicle, but you got to make the vehicle so it's easy to manufacture at scale. And then you got to make the factory to make the vehicle. You need to design the factory to make that vehicle. And it's not just building the vehicle, it's building the vehicle and the factory that builds the vehicle. It's building the machine that builds the machine. Ken one says, I predict Elon will try to disrupt the financial system. I think he very clearly wants to do that with Twitter. James Adelbush says, how much do you think per year a person could make with robotaxi? So I think in the early years of robotaxi, a individual robotaxi will generate in the ballpark of $100,000 a year in revenue. Maybe somewhere between $60,000 and $100,000 a year in revenue. Could be more, but if you figure $1 a mile times 100,000 miles, you get $100,000 in revenue. And then you back out $15,000 in cost, maybe $30,000 in cost, and you get to like 70,000 gross profit, or 50,000 gross profit, something like that. I think as the robotaxi network grows and scales, then the price per ride will go down, the price per mile will go down, and eventually the dollars per year of a robotaxi will be less. What was that other question? I don't think they're going to demonstrate bot at AI Day. Maybe they'll have one standing there. They're going to have Cybertrucks around, I think, but I don't think, will they talk about Cybertruck at Investor Day? I don't think so, but it's possible. Will Investor Day move the market? They never do. Events like this never do move the market, so why would this time be different? People are saying Austin desperately needs a metro system or a boring network. Austin, well, every major city has traffic issues. Orlando and Tampa have terrible traffic. Miami has awful traffic. Lots of big cities have bad traffic. What's with the green light in back of you? It's just something to give people, give it a different perspective in the back. I try different things for lighting. What are my thoughts on eVTOL cargo drones? There's a really interesting, I think it was not this year's big ideas from ARK Invest, but maybe it was last year's big ideas, or maybe it was some other presentation they did. they talked about the role of flying drones for delivering packages versus robo-taxis for delivering packages, and they made a pretty compelling case that flying drones would be better for deliveries. I think it really depends on the context of the delivery. Like, if you have a delivery where, um, let's say people have balconies that you can drop packages on, that may be a better use case than driving a robo-taxi and having a drone, a bot, take stuff out of the car and walk up to the front. And if you can deliver a package with a 50-pound drone delivering a 5-pound package, the amount of mass you have to move to get there is lower, so it becomes more efficient. If you have to deliver 10 packages with a 3,500-pound Model 3, it's a lot less efficient. Jim Whitehead estimates Robotaxi makes $50,000 in profit a year. Yeah, it's $50,000 in profit, gross profit a year, roughly in the early years. But as the fleet scales, as the volume of Robotaxis gets to a certain point, it drives the price down, and that drives the profit per year down. But it's 5 years from the start of a Robotaxi network before it really starts getting the price down significantly. Will it be worth selling shares to buy a Robotaxi? Probably not. That depends on what the price of the shares are at the time and what Robotaxi costs at the time. All right, so I'm gonna wrap this up now. The next live stream, there's a link in the chat at the top, and there's a link in the video description below. I'm gonna start the next live stream in about 5 minutes on the Daily Live, more like 7 minutes. I want to thank everybody for watching. Thank you to Mark Plott, Mark Potocnik, and Jim Whitehead for moderating. Please check out the t-shirts at elonbits.com. Check out the stainless steel water bottles at elonbits.com. There's the Elon stainless steel water bottle as well. There's lots of t-shirts. Tesla Air t-shirt. Drew Baglino is my second favorite person at Tesla after Elon. So please check that out. Mike needs Mike stock. The static gets his nose every time. It's pretty far. It's this far from my nose. I don't think that's it. That's an interesting theory, though. Be nice. Check that out. Maybe if I did a mic sock, that would help. I don't know. So thanks everybody for watching. Thanks again to the moderators. Please check out my other videos. Please support me on the Locals platform, which is where we're going next. On Patreon or as a YouTube channel member. Check out my other videos. Like this video, share it, and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching.